Hi everyone, welcome to Gnan Cloud Garage. In this session, I'm going to talk about a deep dive into VMware Workstation, workstation architecture, and VMware Workstation features and real world use cases. And this is a common icon for VMware Workstation. And here is the quick agenda. Before understanding the VMware Workstation, first we'll quickly understand the differences between architectural differences and what is VMware Workstation and what are the standard features of VMware Workstation and what are the new features in VMware Workstation 7.5 Pro. So VMware released the latest version 7.5 Pro on last week only, and VMware Workstation advantages and disadvantages and virtual machine and its components and VMware Workstation networking configuration for virtual machines, and finally VMware Workstation real world use cases. So let's start with the architectural differences. So within the architectural differences, see we have a three types of architectures: traditional, or we also call it as physical architecture, host based architecture, and bare metal architecture. And here host based means this architecture depends on one of the operating system. That's why we call it as host based architecture. Bare metal means this architecture we are running the ESX operating system directly on bare metal. That means directly installing on hardware. So this architecture we call it as bare metal architecture. This traditional architecture means within our x64 architecture or x86 architecture, we have a CPU, memory, network card, network interface card, and disk. And on top we can install the operating system, and above that we can run the applications. This is the traditional architecture. When comes to host based architecture means it is nothing but we have x64 architecture, we can install the operating system, and on top we can install a VMware Workstation software. This is a one of the virtualization software. This is a host based virtualization software, VMware Workstation. Using VMware Workstation, we can create multiple virtual machines, VM1, VM2, VM3, and so on. And this each virtual machine, we can install the guest operating system and we can run application within a virtual machine one. And how we have a physically CPU, memory, NIC, and disk. The same way, when we comes to the virtualization, we have vCPU, vMemory, virtual NIC, and virtual disk. Okay, whatever the terminology we have physically, when comes to virtualization, we all the terminology is still the same, but all the CPU means it's we call it as virtual CPU, memory means we call it as virtual memory, here physically NIC code, here we call it as virtual NIC, here is normal disk, we call it as virtual disk. Okay, that terminology is changed. And virtualization means it is a technology, it allows you to transform hardware into software, and whatever the hardware resources we have, the same resources are equally distributed to our virtual machines, okay, based on our physically available resources. If we have more resources, we can create a number of virtual machines. If we have less resources, minimally we can create one or two VMs or three VMs. Okay, and let's comes to the bare metal architecture. This is within the bare metal architecture, we are not depending on any operating system. ESX itself is an operating system, and we can run the ESX operating system directly on hardware. On top, we can create multiple virtual machines, VM1, VM2, VM3, and so on. And when we compare with the host-based architecture and bare metal architecture, normally for testing and development, we can recommend VMware Workstation, and for production environment, we would recommend or we propose to the customer only to go with the bare metal architecture. Okay, that is a high level overview of architectural differences. Now, we are going to focus on this session is VMware Workstation. Okay, so let's try to understand VMware Workstation definition now. What is VMware Workstation? VMware Workstation is a virtualization software. As I mentioned, virtualization means it is a technology, it allows you to transform hardware into software. All hardware component become as software component. And that's the reason we mention a software product that allows us to run multiple operating systems. See, we can run multiple operating systems on a single physical computer. Single physical computer means we can run this workstation software on any desktop system or we can run it on laptop. Okay, and it enables us create and manage virtual machines on our desktop or laptop, each of which can run a different operating system. Suppose VM1, I install a Linux operating system, and VM2, we can run Windows operating system, and VM3, we can run a different flavor of OS. Okay, that all possibilities available within a workstation. And in addition, this VMware Workstation is the most powerful virtualization for mainly for these two platforms, Windows and Linux. Even the binaries available from VMware website for .exe file, it's available for executable file for Windows OS flavor, and there is a binary files available for Linux. Okay, only these two flavors VMware Workstation software is available. The next generation VMware desktop hypervisors for Windows and Linux are here. So run nearly any OS on Windows or Linux and develop and test for any platform. As I mentioned, this workstation is mainly for testing and development, and run nearly anything all from a single device. Okay. Now, let's talk about what are the standard features of VMware Workstation. So within a VMware Workstation, the standard features are like we have a Windows DirectX 11 games and apps are available within this workstation, and we can also utilize the workstation specifically for a container platforms. One example is Docker, and not only container platform, even container orchestration platform also, it have a feature. Container orchestration means Kubernetes, so we can deploy Kubernetes environment on this using workstation software. We can run the Kubernetes softwares as well. And this workstation have a limitations. We can configure virtual machines, large VMs until 32 vCPUs and 128 GB RAM and 8 GB virtual RAM. And also we have additional features like accessible using screen reader and other assistance technology. And it is also latest version VMware Workstation 17.5. It's supported for vSphere 8 support for local deployment and remote connections. Remote connection means if you have any remote vSphere 8, we can also connect to our VMware Workstation software. And high performance file transfer, copy paste between host and guest. Even in our local laptop, if you want to copy the any files from local laptop to workstation guest OS, that flexibility is available. And the security, vGPU rendering engine runs in isolated sandbox for maximum isolation. Isolation is nothing but a separate. And the dark mode interface is available, and it will not only for VMware vSphere, it will also support for Windows Hyper-V mode. Okay, Hyper-V is nothing but a Microsoft hypervisor software name, and support the latest Windows 10 operating client OSs, Windows 11 latest version, and major Linux OS release also. This workstation software is supported, and it will also supported for a Linux host with integrated Intel GPUs also it possible. These all considered as a workstation standard features. But when comes to the latest version of version 17.5, within the latest version, what's new is we have a latest features. As I mentioned, Windows 11 host, and also it's supported for Windows Server Operating System 22 as well. And in addition, another new feature is new TPM 2.0 virtual security device is available, and fast encryption for security at maximum performance, and OpenGL 4.3 graphics in Windows and Linux virtual machine. These are all the new features introduced from version 17.5 Pro. Okay, now before we talk about the additional points on VMware Workstation, we can quickly download the software and we can install in our lab environment. Let me connect to our lab system. Let's say if we plan to download the VMware Workstation, we can in the Google, we can just type the VMware Workstation download. When we type VMware Workstation Pro 17 download, when we type that one, it will redirect it to the download link directly from official VMware. So when we see here VMware Workstation 17 Pro, it's available for Windows flavor and it is also available for Linux flavor. Currently our client system is running with Windows, so I'm just downloading Windows flavor .exe file. So currently download is in progress. So once the download is completed, we can start the installation. This extension is .exe executable file. So download is almost finishing stage. Okay, download is completed. So installation is just right click the binary file and run right click and open. It will start the installation procedure. Just in case if it is not stated, go to the downloads and we can double click the VMware Workstation software. Okay, installation is going to start now. Click on yes. So we can see VMware Workstation Pro 17. Once it is completely installed, we can see from the about it is the latest version 17.5 Pro. Installation is pretty straightforward. We can just follow the on-screen instructions. Okay, currently installation is in progress. So welcome to the VMware Workstation Pro setup wizard. Click on next and end user license agreement, accept, and compatible install VMware hypervisor automatically. Okay, we can just enable, click on next. And even if we want to custom setup, enhance keyboard driver, we can enable, click on next. And for user experience settings, this one generally either we can use or unuse, doesn't matter. It's up to us. And it will create a shortcut on the desktop and also start menu program folder. It's good to enable. And now click on install. So installation may take a while. We have to wait until the installation is complete. So once installation is completed, it will prompt us to reboot the system. See, if you see in the desktop, workstation icon is created. VMware Workstation. See, it is installing all virtual network drivers. Okay, now we can see completed the VMware Workstation Pro setup wizard. Just click on finish. So we must restart your system of configuration changes made to VMware Workstation to take effect. So click yes to restart now or no if you plan to manually restart later. So we are good to restart. So in the meantime, we can just connect back to our slide. So we understand the standard features and also there what are the new features available in VMware Workstation 17.5 Pro. So now in addition, there is another key points, VMware Workstation advantages and disadvantages. So advantages means pros. So we have some pros and cons. So pros are leverage your existing VMware Workstation, no new hardware. That means when we want to use workstation, we no need a additional hardware. Existing laptop or desktop we can use to run the software. That is one advantage, and fairly inexpensive to get started. Okay, yes, and built-in virtual networking. So that is a features available within the workstation, and can manage ESXi vCenter. If we have a ESX and vCenter, we can also manage using VMware Workstation. I will show you that feature. And cons, disadvantage, it's a type 2 hypervisor. When we compare a bare metal virtualization, that is a type 1 hypervisor, VMware Workstation is considered as a type 2 hypervisor. That means it's a shared resources from the our local system or local laptop, and it doesn't support all VMware product workflows. If you want to practice within your workstation, we can practice like VMware ESX, nested ESX, and VMware Workstation installation. We can also run some other VMware products, but it's not supported for all VMware product workflows. Okay, that is one disadvantage, and most likely require uses of nested ESX only. Nested ESX means we are running the ESX operating system on workstation virtual machine, but that is only for testing purpose. It's not recommended for a production use. Okay, now let's back to the slide, back to our lab system. Let me see whether the system restart is completed or not. Yeah, so seems the system is boot up successfully. Let me connect again. Okay, now connected to the lab system. Okay, once the restart is completed, we can open a VMware Workstation Pro. Okay, if we have a license key, we have to enter the key, or else we can use a trial edition. They clearly mention I want to try VMware Workstation 17 for 30 days, so we can try with a evaluation. Later we can update the license as well. Okay, so once we connected to the VMware Workstation Pro 17, to verify the version, see, we can say for latest update, see workstation version 17.5. We can say download and install. Okay, and now in the meantime we can observe the options. See, it is installing the latest feature 17.5, so it is also may take a while. See, software update for VMware Workstation version 17.5. When you see here in the above, we have a within the dashboard we have three options: create a new virtual machine, or open any existing virtual machine, or connect to a remote server. Connect to remote server is nothing but we can access the remote ESXi host using VMware Workstation software. So here virtual machine means it is a software. Normally virtual machine definition is nothing but it's a software generated machine and looks like a physical machine. Okay, so the same point let me explain you from our slide, because the downloading is taking a while. In the meantime, let me go through the some slide key points. Virtual machine means it is a, as I mentioned, it's a software generated machine and looks like a physical machine. In other words, we call it as a virtual machine is a software computer that, like physical computer, runs an operating system and applications. So operating system and application within a virtual machine. And how about the virtual machine components? These components includes operating system, and we have to install the VMware tools. VMware tools is nothing but it will provide all virtual device drivers. Okay, and virtual resources such as CPU, memory, that means vCPU and vMemory, network adapters, disk controllers, parallel and serial ports. These all considered as a virtual machine components. And now let's come to the another key point: VMware Workstation networking. So virtual machine, every virtual machine have some networking configuration. This includes like we have bridge network configuration, NAT, network address translation configuration. We also have host only network configuration. Let's understand bridge networking configuration. When we install VMware Workstation, default it created a virtual network switch. That number we call it as VMnet 0. But when comes to NAT configuration, there is a VMnet 8, and within a host only there is a VMnet 1. We'll try to observe this VMnet 0, 1 and 8 are created within our system or not. Just now we install VMware Workstation in our lab system. So just open a network connections. To open a network connection, start run, type the command ncpa.cpl. It will open a network connections widget. See, within a network connection widget, if we refresh here, we can see the connections VMnet 1, VMnet 8. So that means VMnet 1 and VMnet 8 means VMnet 1 refers as a virtual network switch. It's dedicatedly for host only networking. VMnet 8. VMnet 8 is dedicated for a NAT configuration. And even there is a virtual another network switch that is called VMnet 0. This refers as a bridge networking. Okay, so using this network, we can connect from our local system host network adapter. That means our local laptop or local desktop. From this network, we can connect to using this NIC. We can connect to our virtual machine virtual network adapter. That is how the network connection is established. Similarly, within a NAT also, only thing is it will automatically detect the IP address from DHCP, and we can also use a NAT device. But normally from home Wi-Fi have all these default facilities, DHCP and NAT, so that we don't need to configure manually. It will detect the IP address automatically within our virtual machine. And similarly for host only networking scenario as well. Okay, now let's these options we can observe when we creating a virtual machine. Let me log in back to our lab system. Click on yes. It is asking us to do some additional update options. See, update is still going on. It's trying to download the updates from the internet. See, it says this installer requires to restart the system to finish installing Microsoft VC redistributable and then rerun the installer. Okay, we can just click yes. So we are trying to restart one more time. So in the meantime, let me go through the slide. So VMware Workstation real world use cases. So we have a three main key use cases. One is for IT solution for IT professional, solution for businesses, solution for developers using VMware Workstation. So one use case it clearly says run virtual machines, container and Kubernetes cluster that are compatible with our corporate data center right from our laptop. Okay, and IT service providers can install operating system and software on any virtual machine, many virtual machines as you would like. Okay, so it's straight away understandable, and create new servers quickly and eliminate the need to purchase a hardware when a new server is needed. That is also one recommended use case. For quick testing and all, we no need to wait for a new hardware. We can just install Workstation, create VM and do your testing. Okay, and businesses add a new level of security to your fleet of productivity software users by providing a secured sandbox to run secondary operating system designed for any kind of use case. Okay, and another point, run multiple application and operating system workload on one server and enabling better resource management. That means within one local laptop we are installing the workstation and we can able to run our applications on our virtual machine guest operating system. That's why they mention multiple application and operating system. So multiple is applicable for OS and also application. And enabling better resource management means normally within our system, suppose if we connect to our lab system, within our lab system generally we do not utilize the 100% CPU and 100% memory, but when we install a workstation and create a VM, our utilization of hardware is completely better utilized. That's the reason we mentioned enabling better resource management and spread workload among underutilized servers. If we have underutilized server, which speed up the performance and reduces downtime. And another use case is solution for developers. So create and test multiple operating system and browser compatibility to build cross-platform or cloud scale apps from your desktop. And test a new operating system. Suppose if you want to not only Windows latest version 11 or Server OS 2022 or Linux latest flavor, this kind of versions, if you want to test it also, test new operating system updates and patches in safe environment before updates are deployed live or production environment. And securely share files and paths from host to many guests at once. So even because developer they develop some source code, that source code if you want to move from local system to our virtual machine guest OS, we can also share it. That flexibility is available for developers. So this is the VMware Workstation real world use cases. Now let me connect back to our system. Hope the system is back to online. Let me connect again. So reboot is completed. After we update the VMware Workstation 17 to 17.45 Pro. So now launch. When we see from here, see it is also maybe there are some pending updates it will install now. So either we can skip or remind later or download and install. So with interest of our time, I'm just mentioning as remind me later. And now we'll just launch this wizard and create a virtual machine. So while creating a virtual machine, we recommend to choose custom, but recommendation is typically is recommended by default, but generally to verify all the options, we choose custom. See workstation 17.x and it's compatible with limitations are 128 GB memory, 32 processor, 10 network adapters for each VM, and 8 terabyte disk size and 8 GB shared graphics memory. Okay, so now click on next. And if you want to install operating system now, you can mount it or we can choose I will install the operating system later. And you can choose the multiple flavors of operating system, guest operating system. Like Microsoft Windows, it's supported for Windows client OSs 10, 8 series, 7 series, Vista, old versions, and similarly for server operating system. As I mentioned, from the latest version, we have Windows 22 feature is available from 17 onwards. And when comes to the Linux, also it's supported for Red Hat Enterprise Linux, SUSE, and even other platforms, Ubuntu, and also other Linux flavors. And VMware ESX means it will support it for our ESX version starting from 4 to latest version 7. Even it's supported for 8 as well once we update our software to 7.17.5. And other means there is a different flavors of operating system apart from Windows, Linux, and ESX. Those are MS-DOS, FreeBSD, Solaris operating systems. So currently, I'm for testing purpose, we are planning to install Windows Server 2022 OS. So I'm just selecting Windows 2022. Click on next. And default path it is storing in our C drive location. Okay, it's fine. Make sure we should have enough free space. So for Server 2022 Windows Server, I'm just mentioning the shortcut name Windows 2022. Now click on next. And we can go with the default firmware type UEFI. Now click on next. And default process 2 processor and memory it's took 2 GB. Let me increase to 4 GB. That means 4096. And click on next. And we can also see this networking. Earlier I tried to explain the network connection. This is the diagram. bridge networking, NAT, and also host only networking. Only difference is we can use VMnet 0 within a bridge, VMnet 1 within a NAT, and we can VMnet 8, and host only means VMnet 1. Okay, so now select the use bridge networking or anything we can use. Click on next and go with the default IO controller LSA logic as it is recommended. Click on next, and even virtual disk type latest version is available NVMe. So we can choose NVMe, create new virtual disk. And if you want to choose the virtual disk, single file is the recommended instead of multiple files. And by default Windows 22 it selected 60 GB. Okay, we can go with the default size. Click on next, and it's the Windows 2022 VMDK. That means virtual machine disk file is going to create now. Click on next. So this is a complete ready to complete summary. We choose the name as Windows 22, default location C drive documents folder, VM virtual machine folder. It's creating this VM, and version is 17.x, hard disk size 60 GB, memory 4 GB, and network adapter bridged is the automatic. CPUs are 2 CPUs we assigned. So now click on finish, VM will be created. See, virtual machine created successfully. To install the OS, we can just select the CD DVD and mount the ISO. So with interest of our time, I just downloaded the Windows 2022. We have to download 2022 evolution version from Microsoft website. I just downloaded already. We can mount the same ISO file, make sure it's connected power on option, click on OK. When we select this option, click on power on. So our Windows 22 VM, it will start booting from a Windows 2022 ISO file. So just press enter, it will start the operating system installation. Hope everyone aware of Windows 2022 installation. So its booting may take a while. In the meantime, we'll create one more VM and we'll try to map the Linux operating system. So workstation, we can choose the operating system. This time is Linux, and we can choose Red Hat Enterprise Linux. So when we see Red Hat Enterprise Linux 9 series, we can select latest version, and we can choose the name also. We can change it to shortcut name any RHEL-9 and click on next. And 2 CPU and memory, we can make it as 4 GB. That means 4096. And we can go with bridge networking, and LSA logic SAS is recommended, NVMe recommended. We can go with the default recommend options. New virtual disk, and store virtual disk as single file is best practice. And disk size, let me make it as 40 GB instead of 20. Click on next, and VMDK file going to create. Click on finish. Okay, so another VM also created, Red Hat Enterprise Linux. And we can, if you want to mount the ISO file, click on edit settings, go to CD DVD and mount the RHEL ISO file. Even RHEL ISO also, I keep it download ready. So ISO is in our download location. Just select RHEL 9.2 latest version, click on OK. So once ISO is mounted, we are good to power on the virtual machine. So click on OK, it will start booting from the ISO file. So while booting, we can just press enter. Instead of automatic boot, just press enter so that it will start loading. In the meantime, let's back to the Windows. See, Windows screen is loaded. Click on next. So install now. When you see here, our local system is running with Windows. Within a Windows, we install VMware Workstation. We managed to run two different OSs, one Windows flavor, one is RHEL Linux flavor. It seems, yeah, it is booting is in progress, RHEL 9. See, for Windows 2022, we have standard evaluation, desktop experience, data center evaluation, data center evaluation, desktop experience. Generally, standard evaluation means command line, desktop experience means graphical user interface. So we'll use GUI prompt, click on next. So accept the license agreement, click on next. And we can use, while upgrading, we can choose first option for fresh installation custom. So we are going to map the 60 GB to C drive. So click on next. So now installation is in progress. Installing Microsoft Server operating system, it may take a while. In the meantime, we can validate the RHEL9 status. So it is checking the ISO status. Okay, let it check. Once ISO testing is finished, it will start booting. Just in case if you want to skip, press escape so that it will start booting. Windows installation is still in progress and RHEL also in progress. RHEL9 installation also almost the same procedure how we discussed the last time. Okay, it's starting the installation. One moment. Okay, Windows is almost taking some more time. So with interest of our time, I will stop here, but you got the concept. Within Workstation, we can run a multiple VMs. Not only these two, even we can create one more VM and we can run the operating systems. So let's back to our slide. So we talk about the real world use cases and to deep dive into our additional concepts within our GNAN Cloud Garage YouTube channel playlist. I covered some other concepts like core concepts, vSphere, vSAN, Tanju, and also tools like NSX, VRA, VRO, VROps, VRLI, LCM, Lifecycle Manager, ARIA, and also I covered some public cloud integrations as well as VMware Cloud Foundation and HCX hybrid cloud extension and Tanju Portfolio and the VMware Red Hat OpenShift container platform. It is a hybrid cloud open hybrid cloud platform, and we also covered some data protection solutions, and in addition we also covered the server, that means compute concepts and storage concepts, and also most of the concepts I also covered few interview preparation questions as well. Okay, and all these playlists you can just search in our YouTube, search with GNAN Cloud Garage, go to the playlist tab, you can find all the playlist information. Even for workstation, how to install the Red Hat Enterprise Linux detail information also I covered within the vSphere Quick Bytes, Home Lab Quick Bytes, you can refer here. Okay, so that's it. Thank you. If you're watching this video first time, please do view, like, share, and subscribe to the GNAN Cloud Garage channel. If you're already subscribed, I appreciate all your support. Bye for now.